are back with Dave Weigel. In his professional life, he sets up investment portfolios using all
The
kinds
best,
of
top 1%, top
interesting
1%,
and
Mike,
um,
top 1% of fixed income guy. He's one of the best. He's one of the
right.
gurus. He's one of
So
the good guys in that area. He's not only good, but he's a fiduciary that really cares. And that's
right.
the thing. He knows what he's
But
doing and
but
he cares.
you have gone through a terrible divorce that landed you, I think, in Rikers once or more. Just, you're not the guy that landed Rikers, but you started a Facebook page. There might be other places where it's at. What is it called?
What is what called?
The Facebook page.
Oh, Family Court Fraud Warrior Project, which I'm
All right.
learning in our not 9-second attention span society is too long, but of a name. But when I started this, it was a different world. I started this on Facebook because in Facebook you had to be a real person, right? Lo and behold, okay, over the years, nope. Now it's you can sign up with this your fake name and this fake name, and it's we're fighting some of the same garbage that is out there, with all of
part
that.
part of the and we're going to play a few. I got a couple of them up, but part of what you're trying to do is you're asking parents to make a video approximately 3 minutes. One of them we'll watch is about 8 minutes, but that's okay. Don't go too long. Nobody's going to be watching after 8 minutes, but and then get it to you and you post it. And then why do you want parents to do this? And parents have done stuff like this all the time. What is different about what you want to do with these videos from what everybody else has been trying to do? What's the end goal? If you can get 1,000, let's say you get 1,000 of these videos from parents from all over the country. Every one of the 50 states is covered. Many of the counties are covered. You've got 1,000 of these videos. What are you going to be able to do with those 1,000 videos?
Well, it's longer than just a simple answer, and I like to put it this way: that this system has had 40 years and how many millions of cases to perfect their system. Any plan smart enough to break it can't be summed up in a blurb. Okay, it's a multi-step process, basically, where I took a look at what worked for me. Okay. I decided, okay, oh my God, I'm not getting anywhere in the courts. I went over and I turned my tree of life into an alternative jury pool and told the story the right way in piecemeal, because everybody does this, but nobody does it right. Okay. And and I was able to get the people to understand what was happening in my case. And then I got lucky enough to find Rich. Okay. And you, Michael. Okay. A few, okay, journalists with the goal and the balls and the decency. Okay. And I've always said this, okay, because, back in 08, 09, that bothered me a lot. Okay. And I was the only one out there saying this is a failure in regulation. Okay, this is an ultimate failure in regulation. The top of the food chain here of why 0809 happened is the regulators didn't do their job. Okay, that's why nobody went to jail. So basically, where this is coming in here is to sit here, and the original plan here is to bring people in. Yes, give them a community. Okay, try to get them to understand they're not in a legal process. Okay. We use the law for defense, but we're trying to use the media for offense. And I got my kids back this way. Okay. I took out an attorney. Okay. Rich took out an attorney that was getting $500,000 retainers. Okay. My judge is scared to have me back in court. They've punted now, 13 times or whatever. All I have is non-appearance, control dates. They don't know what to do with me because we took it out of the world they control and put it in the world they don't control. Okay. And my feeling is the only thing that is really going to do anything here for anyone to give them back their freedom and their kids eventually is the exposure. These people all have the truth on their side, right? And they're all afraid of retaliation. Okay. But that's illegal. Okay. And what we're trying to sit there and say, I know that there's no silver bullet here. There's no simple, easy answer here, but all of us are in the same boat here. But I'm putting these things together, Mike.
Answer the question directly.
Yeah.
You have 50, 100, 500,
I'm getting
1,000. What are you going to do with it? What are you going
I'm
to
getting
do?
there.
What are you going to do
I'm
with
getting
it?
there. Number one is by getting them, okay, in here, we have a process of verifying them. I'm using the same strategies and red flag indicators to verify the data. The end answer to your question is to verify the data on a quantitative basis. Everybody's fighting this one case at a time. I'm looking at the whole, okay? I'm going to use the polling feature, okay, to ask 30 to 40 very specific questions, okay, that's going to further verify them and verify that this is a nationwide racketeering scheme. But from a media standpoint, okay, because we're always left with this, okay, I come back and I say, whoa, boom, we've just proven this is a nationwide racketeering scheme. We're still left with three questions always. Who's listening? Who's listening that has the power to do anything? And why would they do that? Okay, why would they step in front of this bus of $100 billion a year? Who's going to be the poster child for taking this, you know, this gravy train away? It's not going to be a politician. It's not going to be a lawyer. So to answer your question more directly, with the 1,000 videos, we're asking everybody to end with, my name's Dave Weigel. I'm a victim of the Manhattan family court system, and I demand an investigation. Because how do we vote in this country, Mike? We don't vote on policy. We don't even vote Democrat versus Republican. We vote on Trump, Biden, right? So we're going to Michael Horowitz. Michael Horowitz is the top of the food chain. He's the inspector general. It's his ultimate failure on these thousands of judicial complaints that never get investigated. So we want to bring one person. I keep laughing, and it's not a joke. I'm going to set up an old school, drive-in movie theater across from his office and play this video. It'll take 7 seconds to say that. 1,000 of them is a 2-hour movie, and we're going to have it on a loop with giant speakers playing out to him. He's going to see every person from all walk of life, all sitting there saying, I am a victim and I demand an investigation too. And hopefully we can get more guys like you guys to jump in this media bonanza to make this the nationwide or global story it deserves to be.
All right, so let's watch one of them. And this is going to be...
Started on September 29th, 2022, when I was woken up in the middle of the night to my daughter, who was 5 years old, just turned 5 years old at the time. She was about a week or 10 days past 5 years old, screaming for my help downstairs when I was upstairs in bed sleeping. It was approximately 11 o'clock at night. I went downstairs and I found her half-brother, my stepson at the time, attacking her, and she was screaming, Daddy, Daddy, he's choking me, help me. Daddy, Daddy, he's choking me, help me. As I came downstairs and turned to see this, his arm was around her neck and his hand was in her pants. So I told him to stop, get off. Then I yanked him off and tried to stop him from doing what he was doing, because he wasn't stopping with my verbal descriptions to stop, or verbal cues to stop, and verbal directions to stop. And she said she was being choked. From that moment on, he proceeded to kick me, beat me, to the point where my bicep was torn. I had bruises everywhere. He ran out of the house. They called the police, or we called the police, because we thought that we wanted to get him back. He was 16 years old at the time, and we wanted to get him back. Well, the police came and arrested me, even though I told them what I saw, and I told them he was assaulting my daughter, and they still arrested me. They proceeded to let my daughter live in that house, currently live in that house. A month or two after this happened, I had to take her to the doctor because her vagina was bleeding and her butt was bleeding also. She was having blood coming from both of those places. So I had to take her to the emergency room multiple times with these issues. I also took her to the pediatrician 3 days after, who told me she verbally told me she saw fissures that were seen by the eye on both of those places. And my daughter puked that day when we made it to the doctor. Okay? Then we proceeded to go to Lurie's Children's Hospital for the Safety and Well-Being Clinic, downtown Chicago, but that was a month later. a month later after these assaults. I have learned since then many things have happened. The biggest issue here, my daughter still sees that attacker every week. I was taken away and taken to jail, and I was given restraining orders, and I was told I couldn't see my children. I was told I couldn't take them to the doctor. I was told I couldn't talk about the situation. I was told all this stuff, gag orders, restraining orders. I've beat most of them so far. I'm still in an appeal with DCFS I just put it through. I won my previous court case. Now I've got to win the other ones. I have so many court cases, I don't even know where to start. 2022 DV 00656 or 1656 or 00656. I also have 2022 OP 01300, 2022, just so many. There's so many here. I mean, I have them right here. I've beaten all of them. Almost all of them that have come up. There's still some fake ones out there. But on top of it, this all started with the fact that my daughter was being attacked and asked for help, and I tried to help her. I don't know what other parent wouldn't help their child when they're screaming for help. Daddy, daddy, help me. He's choking me. And then within 4 hours, I was arrested, and my daughter was still with that attacker at 5 years old, when he was 16. So again, this is Kane County, Illinois. I was seen in front of judges. First of all, I was seen in front of my case that went in front of a couple of judges I didn't see. Judge Camargo was also a judge, Judge Tagler Giovanni. I have William Engerman. I had Chief Justice Villa that denied my ADA rights, apparently, because I wanted ADA accommodations for myself and my daughter. ADA coordinator Christy DeChristopher said I couldn't get any ADA accommodations. They don't do that in the courthouse. There's attorneys Doyen, Laura Conroy, GAL Doug Cascaden, attorneys Vandersnick and Miller, attorney Karen Delaveau, attorney McSwain, attorney Rothenberg, DCFS Illinois, King County Children's Advocacy Center, St. Charles, Illinois Police, Dr. Anna Kuda, School District 303 that's a mandated reporter and doesn't mandatorily report when my daughter goes to the nurse every single day because she's got pains. Lurie's Children's Safety and Wellbeing Clinic, like I just said. I don't even know where else, and that's probably just the beginning. I'm probably missing things.
All right, so I got a few things to add on that. Kane County, Illinois is where Carol Witkowski's case happened with her little boy, James Riker Beal, was killed right before he turned 3 years old. Her ex-boyfriend, if he didn't kill him, I don't know how he died. He died in the guy's house. There's no explanation. That's Kane County, Illinois. Doug Cascaden, I'm going to get the article up. I did a case with Doug Cascaden. Kane County is an extremely notorious court for not protecting children. And, that's actually one of the benefits of what you're doing, because when the parent starts to list out names, I bet other people who have had that same name are going to jump at it. And you're gonna get, and I think it's this case. No, you know what? It's not.
That's exactly what we're seeing, Mike. Where people are saying, since I put my video up, 3 other people reached out to me with the same judge in the same courthouse, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
Which is great.
Right.
And Dave, just on that point, can you talk about this permanent public record that you're creating, this blockchain type thing that this Family Court Fraud Warrior Project is?
Absolutely. This is what's missed the most.
Wait, before you go on, right there, Doug Cascaden. So on this gentleman's case, in the case I'm covering, where again abuse is ignored and covered up, you're finding a pattern, and that's one of many benefits of doing this. But go ahead.
That's absolutely great, and you're helping me every single day. Another door opens on this thing, and we're able to connect dots. That is just it's powerful in this thing. But this is what everybody misses. I did in January of 24. I figured out. I said, look. I mean, if there's something that they're so practiced here. They have every door closed. If it's something that's going to break them, it's going to be some innovation that they didn't see coming. What would that be? Technology. Okay. I started taking a look. I said, I've always seen the internet as permanent public record. Okay. But what's the difference between, what I'm doing here, what anyone's doing, and, my uncle that's complaining about Biden? Okay. Well, being published, okay, makes it more significant. Okay. Had me go and look for Rich. Okay. Look for you. Okay. But that was one side of it. Okay. The other side is really verifying the truth. Okay. We know from the financial world, data is only data if it's true. Okay. We get killed in investments when we find out data isn't data. Okay, it was a lie, and that's that centerpiece of my hedge fund is fraud detection, is regulatory arbitrage. So over the years, I've developed all these red flag indicators to indicate where people are lying. But then we originally were thinking that AI, okay, would do this job. And we were disappointed that it hasn't come around to the point you'd have to feed all the stuff in there. But then I just realized and came in here because people are saying, Rich's article went viral. I got reached out by 300 people. And I said, I got to do something different here. This is beyond my personal Facebook page. And then they told me about this group. And I didn't know anything about Facebook groups. And then I was like, wait a second. This falls right under the same pretense in the context of blockchain. Why does blockchain, why is Bitcoin this outrageous, mind-bending technology? Because it's a public ledger. Okay, nobody owns it, and it's public, and it's just recording all of the actual data and the transactions. So that I always use this explanation. If I'm saying here right now that I sold 1,000 Bitcoin to you, Mike Volpe, but my phone shows that the Geico app that's tracking something completely different, whether I'm speeding on the highway, shows that I'm speeding on the highway on the Garden State Parkway, that transaction fails. Same thing here. You're putting up something. Number one, narcissists and liars are not going to do the 3 to 5 minute video on a permanent public blockchain because they know what's in their history. And this purpose of this is to take down dirty lawyers and attorneys. They're not going to do it. So we've already filtered out a whole bunch of people. But if you're putting up lies, somebody else in the world knows it's lies. They're going to chime in. They're going to chime in. The system is going to work. It's not perfect, but we don't need to be perfect, okay? If we can get to 90-something%, efficacy here, okay, on who's really a victim here, because at the end of the day, we feel anyone who's been through family court is a victim. They did not get due process, period. But for the media campaign, we want the 1,000 easiest cases, the ones that are just outright. There's a victim. This person has no criminal history. Okay, this was the good parent the whole time. This is not the liar in this group here. But I got to tell you, okay, there's a lot of people in this sphere that are not happy about me building a truth and transparency machine. Okay, that's not where they got to in life. Okay, is truth and transparency. So what are they doing? Kill the messenger. They don't want to say anything about what I'm building. They want to kill the messenger.
All right.
I currently live in Edgewater, Florida, just south of
Let's listen to
Daytona.
another one.
My children and I's story begins in Chicagoland in 2020 during the pandemic. I had divorced my ex-husband, Justin Serlich, in June 2013, but Justin refused to move out of my home with my children in Fox Lake, Illinois. You see, his mother, Mary Serlich, had threatened me that if I removed Justin Serlich from my home after a divorce, Mary would make sure that I never saw my children again. Yet, even after a divorce, he continued to abuse my children. He continued to essay myself. In 2020, during the pandemic, my children and I sought help from a safe place of Zion, Illinois, a domestic violence shelter. Through a safe place, we were guided on making police reports for the child abuse and SA. In September 2020, they had me take my 2 children, these 2, to Lake County Children's Advocacy Center in Gurnee, Illinois, to give their recorded statements of the child abuse inflicted upon them by Justin Serlich. October 8th, 2020, Illinois DCFS investigator Jessica Lyman kidnapped them from Kitty Cottage Daycare in Fox Lake, Illinois. She did not have a court order. She did not have a business card. She did not have a state ID. She took my children from the daycare and they disappeared from my life October 8th, 2020. October 13th, 2020, Justin Serlich told Judge Christopher Morosin that I am an unfit parent and I have mental health issues. At that point, Judge Christopher Morosin made my children wards of the state and put a gag order on me that was in place until December 28th of 2023, violating my First Amendment. They were then child trafficked by Camelot Care, caseworker Elizabeth Tevis, Kayla Davis, and Scott Cox for over a year. In August 2021, Justin Serlich ordered my children down to Daytona, Florida, through guardian ad litem Kathleen McGee of Vernon Hills, Illinois. My children were then signed over to Justin Serlich illegally, violating my constitutional, civil, and human rights because I was never charged with anything, and my children should have never left the state of Illinois. I am now in Daytona, Florida since December 2021 and still have no access to my children whatsoever. The four players in the state of Illinois were Judge Christopher Morosin, Judge Lombardo, Reginald Matthews, and Marty Slavin. Michael G. Nurheim was the state attorney responsible for prosecuting Justin Serlich in 2020. Michael G. Nurheim is now a judge in Illinois Circuit 19, appointed by Governor J.B. Pritzker. When I opened my Florida Circuit 7 case here in Daytona in 2023, I had expectations that I would have access to my children. Yet to this day, May 2025, I have now lost 5 full years with my children. Judge Stasia Warren of Florida Circuit 7 signed an illegal contempt order ordering me to pay my rapist $1,785 a month through his attorney, Serena Baldacchino of Rice Law Firm. When I put in a motion to vacate that, I was denied immediately. I pulled a public records request in December 2024, and within 2 hours, Judge Stasia Warren recused herself from my case here in Daytona. Through that public records request, I found out that Michael G. Nurheim of Illinois had contacted my then attorney, Mary Jane Nettles, and Mary Jane Nettles emailed his personal cell phone number to Judge Stasia Warren of Florida Circuit 7 and Serena Baldacchino of Rice Law Firm. My case here in Florida Circuit 7 has been stalled out for over a year now, thanks to Michael G. Nurheim of Illinois Circuit 19. I now have a new judge, Judge Sanders C. Upchurch, who rubber stamps a denial with every single one of my motions since the moment I file. I am now in Florida Appellant Court District 5, still fighting to gain any access to my children whatsoever. So my children were kidnapped from me in the state of Illinois, Circuit 19, child trafficked by Illinois, Circuit 19, and Camelot Care for over a year, and then dumped in Daytona, Florida with their abusive non-custodial parent who has been withholding any and all contact with my children for 5 full years now. My name is Heather Bendel. My 4 children and I are victims of Illinois Circuit 19 and Florida.
Okay. And that's pretty powerful. Upchurch sounds familiar, so I may have seen that name before. The other names I don't recognize. One other thing, Lake County is the county right above me, Cook County, and most of the towns she was referring to are pretty close to the Wisconsin border. Kane County is about 50 miles west of Chicago. So they're not necessarily that close, but everything is in and around the Chicago area for the last 2 that you heard. And also, I didn't mean to take 2 from Illinois near me. That was actually by accident. So I'm not.
I have a quick question for Dave about and one of the things that you talk about a lot, and I think that the audience would really benefit from hearing, is how you, in your professional life as a fiduciary, how regulated you are compared to your experience with judges and lawyers and the family court decision makers and the DCF, how non-regulated they are. Can you talk a little bit about the great discrepancy that you see in your ability to try to quantify and get factual evidence?
Absolutely. And thank you for bringing this up, because at the end of the day, the pipe dream here is to institute the fiduciary standard, the real fiduciary standard. Okay. When I found the CFP back in 2003, this handled everything that I wanted to be. I didn't want to be a salesman. I wanted to be respected, okay, as a force for people. And the CFP, the Certified Financial Planners, and the fiduciary standard that is in place in the financial industry is the most regulated industry on the planet for truth and fair dealing. It is. I just put up a post the other day saying, if I donate $100 to a local politician, I get a completely new enhanced regulatory system. I got annual audits. They're looking through every line item of my finances. Richard, ears must have been ringing. I was literally just emailing the board, the CFP board, who is following up and just doing their normal regulatory stuff. Every 2 years, we have to do intense continuing education. The tests are real, okay, and they can spot, okay, audit us at any time, okay. Any and everything is investigated, and they're outright looking for you in any way, shape, or form to have any kind of conflict of interest, any kind. Okay,
Right,
paid or
but
not.
the court will say a guardian ad litem is usually a lawyer. The bar oversees them. A psychologist has a license, licensure overseeing them. A therapist.
And it's a front, Mike. And it is a front. The bar is a front, okay? They are a lobbying organization pretending to be a regulator. That is everything about this thing is, this scam is veiled by making it look like court, okay? But they don't follow any laws. So it's not court, okay? It is a criminal enterprise. And then the Bar Association is, at the end of the day, I said, the regulators, okay, we're the top fault in 0809. This falls squarely on the Bar Association here and the politicians that allow them to pretend to be regulators. We know of 4 cases, Mike.
We need regulators with teeth. Let's watch. This is Tess Vega. I did her story. I think she goes on for a while, but I think she does a really good job of breaking down her story.
And legalized trafficking of my daughters to the full physical custody of their abuser, their adoptive father, Michael John Dale. It has actually been our nightmare for over 3 years now. In February 2022, within 2 days of each other, Judge Kelvin Clyde Wells of the First Judicial Circuit Court in Walton County, Florida, issued 2 back-to-back court orders in 2 related but separate court filings, mine followed by Michael Dale's, my then husband. On February 5th, 2022, I was the first to file for divorce. Judge Wells, only one of 2 circuit court judges for all of Walton County, was assigned to my case, number 2022-DR-104. On February 7th, 2022, Judge Wells signed my pretrial standing order granting me full residential care for our daughters in Fleming Island, Florida. Included in my divorce court documents, as required by law, I reported my new current home address in Fleming Island 10 different times. Fleming Island was our previous hometown of just over 8 years prior to our brief stay in Walton County. I had legally relocated back home with our daughters. Before I filed for divorce, I had already renewed my Florida DMV license and updated my voter registration to reflect my new home address in Fleming Island. And during the rehiring process with Duval County Public Schools, I also notified them in writing, as well as my teachers union, of my new home address. Duval Teachers United is an affiliate of the Florida Education Association, the state's largest teachers union and the employer of my ex-husband. The Florida Education Association keeps track of all the workplace sites, home addresses, and political party affiliations of their teacher union members. I had remained a teacher union member until January 2025. On February 7, 2022, The day after Michael Dale had returned from a work conference, I started FaceTime communications between him and our daughters. Unknown to my attorney and me, 2 days later, on February 9, 2025, Michael Dale and his attorney, Michael T. Webster, filed an entirely new set of divorce papers. Court case number 2022-DR-122, which was also assigned to Judge Wells. At the same time, they motioned the court for an emergency ex parte and temporary relief, requesting injunctive relief and the return of the children, a summons for my arrest, and service by email. Less than 48 hours after signing my pretrial standing order in my family court case, Judge Wells signed the pretrial standing order in Michael Dale's family court case, actively participating in the fraud upon the court. On February 15, 2022, Judge Wells signed an ex parte order on Michael Dale's motion for emergency ex parte relief and filed it on February 17, 2022. The next day, February 18th, I received a text message from our former neighbor. We talked, and she told me that Michael Dale had approached her and her husband and told them that he was going to Jacksonville to have me arrested in front of our kids. Then on February 22nd, 2022, Judge Wells granted Michael Dale and Attorney Webster permission to serve me by email. My attorney could not find any record of this ex parte hearing on the court's docket. In violation of my constitutional right to due process, I lost all custody of my children to an abusive parent. I lost my constitutional right to parent my children as well, all without a court hearing, even though I had an attorney. Judge Wells had no subject matter jurisdiction over my right to relocate with my children back to our hometown. At the time of my relocation, there was no court order or pending court case that existed, leaving me free to return back home. Michael Dale and his attorney falsely stated to the court that I had absconded with our children and that I was concealing them from him, claiming that he had no way of reaching or knowing where the children were. Prior to relocating, Michael Dale had taken over ownership of my cell phone number, our teenage daughter's cell phone number, and her iPhone watch, listing all of it only in his name and removing me as an authorized user. He had access to each of those devices' location services. Even more egregious is the fact that Judge Wells possessed personal knowledge of the following material facts and he concealed these critical facts. He knew that I already filed for divorce. He knew that I was represented by legal counsel. Judge Wells also knew that my court documents stated 10 times where I lived in Fleming Island. Judge Wells knew that Michael Dale was lying when he stated that he had no way of knowing or where our children were. And Judge Wells knew exactly, because Judge Wells knew exactly where we were, and that it was the responsibility of Michael T. Webster, Michael Dale's attorney, to investigate, and he did not do so. On March 2nd, 2022, on the hearing for my motion to dissolve the ex parte order, Judge Wells even helped Michael Dale in his testimony on a material fact. Michael Dale testified, "I also say that I didn't contest for her to move the children to Fleming Island." My attorney stated, "But you didn't contest it, and there was no order in place." Judge Wells interrupts, "Excuse me?" Michael Dale responded, "Agreed, consent. I did not give consent. Sorry, Your Honor." Judge Wells interrupted my attorney during my own direct examination and took over questioning me. He said, "Ms. Myers, I don't mean to interrupt you, but let me just ask the questions I need to know." Judge Wells did not allow my attorney to cite case law for the record, nor would Judge Wells allow any testimony as to the best interests of our children. Judge Wells also showed his bias and prejudice against me by stating falsely, "You're changing jobs in the middle of the weekend. That's no bueno. That won't go." My name is Teresita Vega, and I demand an investigation of the Walton County, Florida Family Court System, and specific
That's a pretty remarkable story. She filed
Yeah.
for divorce and said where she was going to be living, and then her ex-husband files a couple of days later and says, "I have no idea where she is." And the exact same judge handled both cases and should not have allowed the second case to even move forward because another one was filed, and let this guy say, "I have no idea where she is," even though the judge knows exactly where she is because she put her address down 10 times, as she said, and then force the kids back and into this abuser.
I'm saying it's Mike, it's outrageous. Okay, the level of scrutiny. These guys would not pass the first 5 minutes of an audit. We have a standard. We have a system already in place. We have people already in place. All they need to do is be like, guess what? You're also handling the family courts.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
Switch. Okay, it's a switch. Same thing. Same exact thing. Okay.
All right, Dave, if a parent is out there, obviously these are made on people's phones, maybe a cheap video. You don't need to have studio quality electronics to do this, but if they got their phone and they make their 3-minute video, how do they get it to you?
They literally post it direct. That's exactly our thought process here, Mike. Everybody's got a phone. No one needs to do research. We're telling them keep it to 5 minutes exactly because you can't go into the play-by-play. It's people need to look in your eyes. Is this person full of shit or not? And we're telling them this is not the end all be all. This is only one step in the verification process. But everybody needs to know everything about it. But the thing is, it had to be simplicity. It is everyone's got a phone, everyone can turn it on, hit record, and then just load it to Facebook. This is the one thing every Tom, Dick, and Harry knows how to do. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry knows how to do.
Right to Facebook and every cell phone make it easy because they got the apps
and then
already on your phone.
The point is we're doing this process, we're not signing a petition that's going to be handed to a politician and sit in some file somewhere no one's going to see. We're doing this live in front of them, okay, the polling, so they can't pretend we don't exist and can't pretend we're not following the scientific process for data gathering. I'm going to sit there and write out, this is from the textbooks of financial fraud on the right-hand side of the page, and this is what's going on in the family courts on the left-hand side. And even with just one question, Mike, one of our questions, how many people have been arrested, okay, in the criminal justice system through the divorce process that never had a criminal record in their life? Okay. I know that number is coming back 60, 70, 80%. We know the data. All demographics, all time periods, it's 4 to 8%. So either getting divorced makes you a criminal, okay, which
or they turn them into criminals.
Or we've just proven, but no one's done this because no one's had a vested interest in looking at all the cases. Even you journalists, when you look at all these cases, what are you then doing? Going back and writing about 1, 2, 3, okay? No one's putting the numbers to this. The numbers don't lie. We know this on Wall Street. People lie, numbers don't.
Right. I agree. I don't know if we'll do it every week, but we'll play more over the coming weeks. We'll find other videos that people are putting out there. They are important. And as I said, well, the minute the guy said Cuscaden, I was like, I recognize that name. And you start to make more connections that way. Most of these people, they didn't, Kevin Wells, the guy from Tessa's video, he didn't do this just one time. He's a bad judge. All of these are bad folks. They've done it to a lot of people. You put your story out there, other people.
Mike, I'm going to let something out of the bag now. We won't get into it because we're not ready to break it yet. But I know David is working very hard in the state of Georgia. He's found a predator that is practicing law. And he's working. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag or tip anybody off, but he's actually found someone who has pled guilty to a sex crime with children and is still practicing law in the state of Georgia with impunity. There's no regulation by the Bar Association, no anything. And he pled guilty to soliciting a child. He went to a high school, drove his car to the high school, picked up a child, paid her for sex. He's a pedophile. He had sex with the child and then dropped the kid off and then admitted to it. And
now he's a lawyer.
Going along like there's no problem. And this is years later. This is not like it happened 6 months ago. This is years later. There's been appeal to the court. So David is working on this right now to report this and alert the powers that be. How can
it's
this
not a
happen?
one-off? It's not a one-off.
On a positive note, The state of Arizona held their second ad hoc joint committee hearing for family court earlier this week on May 12th, and they passed HB 2256. The legislature passed it. I don't know if Governor Hobbs has signed it or vetoed it yet. That eliminates therapeutic interventionist, which is a term that I've heard of there, and I think California. Basically, they've made up a term. Not anymore. So they're doing big things, I think, in Arizona. They are leading the way, that state, on reforming family court. And if you want to see more stories, that ad hoc committee, which is on their website, has 100 parents testifying. So
Arizona's been big.
these stories are getting out. I think the momentum is on the side of reform, as I said. Arizona is one state, but other states are joining in. Better and better laws are being proposed, and they're being passed. And I'm pretty sure Governor Hobbs will sign this into law as well. And it's not the last law that will pass. And in that state, a group of parents got together and they presented their cases to this legislature, and the legislature listened, and they started holding hearings, and that's how you built momentum.
Mike, but we've seen them break 500 laws in broad daylight. What's 502?
Right. Well, if you eliminate therapeutic interventionists, they won't have
Look, it's
therapeutic
helpful.
interventionists.
It's helpful, but it doesn't get to the heart.
Right.
Philosophy.
It depends on the law.
The philosophy of the family courts has to change fundamentally. And what I think that Arizona is doing is actually very helpful, because the legislators are getting up and saying, our job is not to fix people, not to cure people. Our job is to make two determinations. One is about custody, and the other one is about property. And that's it.
Right.
So appoint 50 different specialists, 50 different.
And if they can get that as the philosophy, the guiding philosophy for the laws, you can change a lot. Look, they're just getting started in Arizona. They've passed two good laws, I believe. They outlawed reunification camps, which are just awful, and they outlawed therapeutic interventionists. And I think they're getting to the point where some legislators are going to say, no more court appointees. And I think that would be a big deal if you could.
But they've got to get to remove judicial discretion. Judicial discretion, we've seen them violate people.
Right. Well,
judicial discretion turns us into Russia. The family court is Russia.
But without judicial discretion, what is the judge supposed to do? It ultimately is the judge.
Follow the law. Follow the law.
Well, but the law is
follow the Constitution.
Right. Well, the law is vague on who gets custody. There are standards that you're supposed to follow, but ultimately it's
every state has a statute, Mike, that has factors. They don't apply the factors. They don't apply them uniformly.
They should apply.
At today's point, there's no regulation. Who's watching the watchers? I wrote an article this week about Robert Tembechian, who's the crooked New York State Commission on Judicial Ethics Council. He's been there for 20, 30 years, and he protects crooked judges. He doesn't regulate them. He protects them. He collects favors, political favors from judges for not going after them. And it's out of control. It's truly an out of control system.
What we're fighting more than anything else, Mike, is the mindset. Okay, we are conditioned in this country. We have no idea how to operate in an environment where there's no police force. We didn't grow up in a town where we looked at the person to the left and said, I wonder if I felt like killing this person because I can't get in trouble for it. We have no mindset for this. We have no mindset. But in the family courts, they have finally woken up to realize the only thing is about keeping it quiet. That's why they make it look like it's about the law. It's all thinly veiled, and it's theater. It is theater. But the thing is, I need to ask you guys is on this note with looking at more videos. I got a text this morning from someone from New York City that sounds like it was written from their attorney saying, you can't use, please take down my video. I do not give authorization for you guys to rebroadcast this any place. Okay. It sounds like he got hit with a gag order and his attorney scared the shit out of him. Now, listen, it's a public site. It's your job to remove it. Okay. Right. It's a public site, right? You know, but I mean, what's the legality there? With all these gag orders, my understanding, is the only way a gag order is legal is if my words are immediately putting my children in harm's way of death. Okay, so how do they get away with all these gag orders?
It's a terrible question that they have. What extent can the First Amendment be thrown into the trash because they're claiming something that's a compelling interest of the court? You're 100% right on that. And the fact is, if there are videos that are like that, David, I would not mind republishing them or publishing them on separate media just to get the stories out there before they get gagged and before they get taken down. I have no problem doing that because there's no
What-
press
what-
protection under New York law. 79H, the civil rights law, allows for journalists to use that and if they're with impunity to the source. So that's
All right.
something.
I've got the Google
you.
AI answer to the Idaho Constitution on open courtrooms, and it says guarantees that courts of justice are open to every person. That means a gag order technically violates the highest law of that state. Judges are supposed to use them very carefully. Very rarely they're supposed to gag a case. What they can gag is a certain motion, a certain hearing, and certainly what they can require is rather than using your children's name to use pseudonyms. I don't think anybody has a problem with that. I don't think anybody would be screaming if somebody gagged a motion.
So we live in this world. We live in this world with every child posting 52 times a day to China. But if we
Right.
mention a child's name,
Right.
we can't have transparency.
Right.
All of it is fraud. It's
Right.
just
Look,
fraud.
this is what we're dealing with the Hales case. They all claim that it's sealed. These cases are rarely sealed. We do not have
Not sealed to the media. Never.
Right, we
it's
do
never
not
sealed
have
to the
star
media.
chambers in this country. That is the worst thing you can do, is allow judges to make these decisions in private. That's how they do it in England. That's how they do it in Australia. England is opening up a little bit. I don't know what's happening in Australia, but in Australia, you could go to jail for that video. You could go to jail for that video.
8 years.
Yeah.
8 years.
So we don't want that. Look, these judges will be free to roam if there's no one watching over them. Look, somebody probably did get to them, but we have a free speech, free press in this country. Every parent has the right to speak about their custody case. And yeah, these judges, they don't like being exposed, and that's why they put these gag orders in.
Did you see the news yesterday with the guy they make fun of, the one that looks like Lurch, for Trump? They're actively looking into habeas corpus, whether or not suspending it right now.
Right.
Lurch.
Yeah.
He called Stephen Miller
All right.
Lurch. That's pretty
You
funny.
That's it,
guys,
Stephen Miller.
anything else either one of you wants to add? Anything else you guys want to add?
Oh, but David, thanks for coming on today. This was great explaining everything. You're doing God's work.
Good luck
As
with
you
the project.
guys are. Where are the other Richard Luthmans and Michael Volpes out there? What are you guys doing?
There are several. Hannah, I'm not going to remember her last name. She reports for the Arizona Republic now. She used to be a pro.
There's more and there's more, and we're going to elevate all you guys. You guys are the last true regulator of the United States, or the
All right.
investigative reporters.
Thank you for being.